Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for patch 13.14, and of course it is the beginning of Split 2, and so we had a bigger patch than we would normally have at this particular stage, itemization shifts, a lot of nerfs, some buffs. Riot attempted to nerf meta junglers, create some other systems through itemization shifts, and we are going to go over all the best junglers for each MMR from low to high, and don't forget I send out a tier list infographic including a clash section and my recommended champion to everyone on my emailing list on Vukai.gg, where you'll also get a free jungle improvement PDF as well as a weekly newsletter. But if you are looking to have the best start to Split 2, if you want to climb faster than you've ever climbed in your life as a total player, the Vukai.gg and Gosu Academy Bootcamp begins on Monday, July 24th. It's only a few more days to sign up. I will be giving away multiple courses to those who do sign up. Myself and Coach Kaiben will be covering absolutely everything there is to know in a completely revised, never before done bootcamp curriculum. And don't worry if you can't make all the sessions, VOD access will be granted, as well as VOD access to previous bootcamps as you require. So to give yourself the best chance of climbing through all the new tiers, including the new Platinum and new Emerald, and getting to your peak faster than ever, join the bootcamp by Gosu Academy, Monday, July 24th. I hope to see you all there. And now starting on the S tier page, we begin with Kindred. Kindred? Didn't they just nerf Kindred? No, what they did is they nerfed Kindred in a dumb way, and then said, hey, that was a dumb way, let's revert that nerf, and then nerf the Q. Let's remove some damage, let's increase the cooldown. And yeah, it turns out that that did not do as much as we thought it would because Kindred is still strong. The thing is, most Kindreds, as we all know, those skillful ones, the ones that always climb to high elo regardless, they're very direct with the way they play the champion. You're not the one who is surprised when you play Kindred. You determine the tempo of the game. You determine when you invade, you determine the ganks, you determine the jungle matchup, and so knowing your cooldowns is great, but you get the cooldown refresh on the W. Yes, the repeated use of that Q is nerfed from the base damage nerf, but when your champion overkills everyone and Riot says, well, now you should overkill them slightly less, you're still killing them, you're just taking a little bit of extra damage to do so, and it's still way more than they're dishing out to you. In addition to that, the nerf to Trinity Force, while it is a nerf statistically, the first 3 stacks on that Trinity Force passive will hit 18% where they hit 12% before. So even though they stop at 3 stacks now instead of 5, overall it is an upfront buff. Next up we have Rek'Sai. Wait, I thought they nerfed Rek'Sai too. Well, my friends, you see what people see as, oh no, they nerfed the base damage all the way down to 5. And everyone's freaking out because the initial tweet didn't have a very important contextual shift. They changed it from bonus AD, which is all the AD you get from itemizations and dragons and such things, to total AD, which includes the base AD that champion has, which also was nerfed beforehand. But even though this will affect your sort of assassin Rek'Sai, that was already changed a lot when they shifted the Prowler's Claw focus and did the Mini rework. Now that she's more Bruiser focused and you went ahead and buffed things like, I don't know, Titanic Hydra, you could go that, not necessarily recommended, but you could. And most notably the Sterak's Gauge, you're giving a champion who now scales off more HP, and then giving them total AD, which is great for champions who don't build a lot of AD. So while it shifts her more in the fighter itemization directive or even hybrid tank directive, it still keeps her unholy strong and she still kills everybody, and now she is even more unkillable herself and she regenerates quite nicely. Next up, I'm slapping in the Graves here. I could put the Nidalee, but I'm putting in the Graves because when Graves' win rate goes over 50%, we all run around hysterically throwing papers in the air, losing our minds and crying and weeping at the lust camps Graves will steal from us if we do anything on the map. And then he's going to one-shot us later on with his Ghostblade collector sort of technologies. Yes, we are seeing the Gore Drinker builds come back. Black Cleaver is strong. I shudder to think what's going to happen with some Graves who are going full Bruiser with Sterak's Gauge, but lethality and squishy fleet footwork tech is still the de facto way to play. Go ahead, one-shot some people and enjoy your free wins. The champion at the moment is absolutely poised for LP gains. Oh, and by the way, mechanically, he's not as easy to kind of pull off with animation cancels and fluidity as people would think. That's why you see a lot of Graves kind of look like a stop-start animation. So please get that practice in, combine it with your jungle savant knowledge, and then you will be able to match up to the Kindreds, although you probably should just go ahead and ban that champion. And then you can also play Nidalees when you are mechanically good enough and maybe in high diamond. Difficult champion, hard to play, but really looking great. I'm not seeing enough of Nidalee as you would expect to see. But we have a challenger Nidalee one trick in my Discord and he's having a lot of fun since those buffs that she just got, which weren't big, but she didn't need. So we're in this meta where very difficult champions are a little bit more accessible at the moment because of how powerful they are. Your Kindreds, your Nidalees, your Graves. Rek'Sai as well. This means they can dominate the metas pretty heavily and it takes a lot of good jungling practices to come out ahead of them. Or the ban button. And while Rengar is one of those champions as well, I'm always less concerned about him because every time they give an indirect nerf to itemization, or in this case a direct nerf to the crit ratio benefits he gets, you know the true one tricks and mains are always going to be okay. And that's on a game-to-game basis. When I see a Rengar and it's not one of those players like the legendary Pussy Poo, then I don't really care that much because I know they're beatable. They're not going to execute properly. They're going to build wrong. They don't know how to triple Q. They don't ever use W properly. It's exploitable. But despite the fact that they've come for the Essence Reaver, they've come for the crit ratio, and they've come for the health regeneration, the champion is still going to be very, very strong. He is overkilling people at 3 atomization with Collector and Lord Doms. The crit ratio nerf, yes, it's going to affect him, but if you have a lead and you go ahead and you try and one-shot somebody, they're still going to die. And you of course have the other ways to build Rengar, which don't rely on critical strike damage conversion anyway. Now next up we have the legendary Evelynn, who again is just benefited so much this season from indirect nerfs, indirect buffs, and her itemization just getting freebies. As always, I put it to you guys to ensure you understand that you're not going to have the same tower damage and macro pressure through objective control, but you can by directing your team to where they need to be through killing the enemy and always making sure it's a 4v5. Position well, push the map well, use your camouflage well, don't over-farm once you hit 6. Keep looking for picks before heralds, before dragons, before anything important. Trap yourself in the bushes, use Gustwalker hatchling in your passive appropriately, and remember, as much as we love that Deathcap second, if you need to go something like a Banshee's Veil, as I showed from the Evelynn 1 trick on my gameplay channel, you can go ahead and use that if you are forced to go in first against team with critical CC, provided you can get out. Other than that, the itemization is straightforward. You really just need to ensure you're hitting those Qs as often as possible, and you'll note that she's a lot stronger 1v1 pre-6 than you think, and you can get fed pretty easily through simple pathing strategies. We've been really focusing on these kind of strategies, and we talked about this in the patch note rundown in my private Rikayu membership Discord. Links below if you also want to get the courses for a nice cheapy price. Hey, you know, let's nerf that lane Karthus, and let's buff the jungle. They just buff the jungle. Sub 3-minute clear while starting on red? Yeah, that's easy too. Remember, if you play this champion to be aggressive, yes, you can full clear. If there's no ganks, go invade, take exhaust, make things happen. You can beat a Rengar 1v1 with that button. If he late invades, he also dies with that button. Nail that first clear down in your practice tool, get that shit as low as you possibly can. Use your downtime effectively, but still arrive at that next rotation on point. Get an early level 6, ult the bottom lane, take a herald, take a dragon. The game's over. This is one of the most aggressive snowballing early game junglers in the game, but everyone thinks you have to be passive. No, be aggressive, farm fast, farm well, and make sure your time is well used. And oh yeah, I almost forgot, Kha'Zix is here. You know, he's still kind of S+ tier overall. His play rate is good. Everything about him is wonderful. He's just a little bit more conditional in terms of his matchups, which I think is exactly how Kha'Zix mains like it. Really, really strong champion, but overshadowed by others who are more oppressive, and you can just kind of exist and do your thing quietly and carry games and not worry about, you know, anything about the meta. Next up, we have the A tier page, and on the top, there must be the Ivern. Now, he could be S tier page according to most people, but he is still supportive. He can still full clear really quickly now. He still has so much amplification for his team. And Daisy is basically a second champion attached to him. And while he is very, very strong, especially at the high tiers of play, and you can easily win con any game you play, for most MMRs, I do recommend taking something that has a bit more control. Like perhaps a Fiddlesticks, who might not have a lot of control in terms of your actual skirmishing and such things. But this champion, as I've said in this series so many times, and I think honestly now is ahead of anybody else in this particular categorization. He is the absolute best jungler to one trick. More than Shaco, who keeps going in and out, and obviously even with his buffs isn't that strong. Fiddlesticks is so unique, so under the radar, so always there by Riot standards. The itemization is straightforward. You win any team fight you need to do after the mid game. You don't have to have kill threat. You don't need that much gold to actually be super strong. Your effigies counter Kha'Zix. I mean, what more do you want? Following this, we have Kayn, and I'm gonna put Kayn here and always put Kayn here because I think Kayn is one of the best well-rounded junglers, teaching you so many great fundamentals about the role. Learn to play as an assassin, learn to play as a bruiser, learn to play as a bruiser building assassin, learn to play as an assassin building bruiser, learn to be a base form that isn't that strong but needs to still get the orb juice in order to become a fully realized beast. There isn't much this champion can't do, but then again, he also rule breaks a little bit, so you get to have fun while everybody else is miserable. Schadenfreude aside, you have the Jarvan, who is basically just, well, when I see someone playing Jarvan, I feel sorry for them. I think, wow, they must be so bored having such a binary and easy champion who also looks really irritating, but just destroys me. But also at this particular stage in time is strong, but feels kind of fair to play against, so I know I have a fair shot at actually beating him as well. And through your lethality or gold drinker and of course buffed Sterak's Gauge technologies, he is actually in a pretty sweet spot. Next up, I'm going to talk about Gragas because his win rate has spiked a little bit. He is back on the map just a little bit because people have figured out how to play after the last round of nerfs. Also with Gragas and things like this, you have to factor in matchups. While he can struggle against a lot of meta champions and champions you're going to see on this list, that also makes you basically say, look, I need to avoid them. I need to play my own game. I need to snowball my lanes and use my carry potential righteously. which you can do, and if you can do, then you don't really care about the other picks. Also, you can ban someone. You could also substitute this for Nocturne, but I wanted something a little bit different that I saw was spiking up in the win rate department. I think it's important to always look at the game like that. There's no black and white best junglers, right? There's always a bit of fluidity at the end of this A-tier page. As you're seeing with the Bel'Veth that we have here. She is a good champion. She has multiple bull variants. You can do Strike Breaker attack. You can do your sort of Kraken Black Cleaver attack. You have Kraken Blade of the Rune King, Wits End into a Jack Show. You can also go Kraken Blade of the Rune King into Rage Blade. He actually has so many different ways to play for different level spikes in the game. Once you identify the one that suits you the best, the snowballing potential is in your control. Then I'm going to put Hecarim. Now Hecarim's win rate after that nerf has gone down nicely. Then I looked at the data and I see, people still building Divine Sun for 46% win rate. Duskblade, over 50% win rate. Guess what? Build Duskblade still. I get it, you're squishy, you can't just run in and survive, that's the point. If you want to be an assassin horse with so much damage and so much conversion from systems into your damage, the movement speed, then you're gonna have to be killable. Because most of the time you have phase rush, you go in and out, and all of a sudden it's like you can't be CC'd because you're fast, unstoppable, and you've already run away. Now that window of survivability is less, you can be killed quicker. Hecarim mains are going to have to think a bit more deeply about their entry points. And finally, you could argue again, this should be Nocturne, this should be someone else. I'm putting Shyvana. You want to know why? Because that AD ratio buff on the Q, max rank 80 to 100%. The AD ratio addition to that E, the attack speed steroid we have on that Q now. This is made up pretty damn good with Trinity Force. She also likes to survive and fight, so Sterak's Gauge. What's also good second? Titanic Hydra. When I look at the data, a lot of AP people building weird things. A lot of people blindly going WE max or EW max. My friends, try other things. The champion is now a lot more diversified in terms of what you can build. Definitely, the Trinity Force is looking super good. It's strong. There are so many ways you can actually build her now without even thinking about AP. There is also interesting data coming in about the ability maxes. Obviously, the AD ratio, scaling on that W means maxing that for farming cadence and disrupting and getting in fights is still great. But the Q max second is more interesting because you want that 100% AD ratio buff as soon as possible. Go Trinity Force and actually see how strong this champion can be. I like Hecarim, suffers from pilot decision itemization issue. And as you can see for low elo, we do have a little bit of a shuffle, but mostly it's having that Shyvana present. Maokai is looking really, really good in this MMR range as well. Obviously, things like your Kayn and your Rammus and your Nocturne and your Mumu, those are always going to be useful and stay in this MMR range. Definitely the Nocturne is something that anyone can play. I just don't think he's necessarily as sexy and up there as some of the other champions. The upside isn't as great, but the reliability is 100% there. You can get a Diamond to Master with this champion easily. It's just weird not having Master Yi perpetually on this list for most of the season. While you can easily smurf 100% win rate with him, there are just so many great ways to actually deal with him at the moment, even if the champion is frustrating to play against when he's fed. For Master Plus and High Elo, as we head into that range, Lee Sin's win rate for the general population ain't so good because guess what? People are slowly realizing that, hey, lethality for snowballing climbing is actually pretty damn good. In High Elo, Goldring is obviously better in your typical contested fights and close games, but most of general population are struggling with this champion. Whereas in High Elo, they figured it out, they know what to do. Graves is obviously way more strong in this particular Elo range as well. And Echo, while is struggling in general population as well with your typical assassin stuff against the other champions in the meta, in High Elo is also doing very well. So as always, there are so many champions you can play in Master Plus. These are the ones that just have the biggest presence and the best situations for maybe climbing in general. But obviously Lee Sin being the one that has the biggest swing at this particular stage. And obviously, I absolutely love Rel for High Elo for general population. She just has such a low pick rate, even though win rate's really good and I think she's super OP for you to play. She doesn't have enough data where you can say categorically, look, she belongs at the top of a tier list. But without a doubt is one of my hidden OP choices as well. But there you have it, the best junglers for patch 13.14. Don't forget, if you want to understand how to be a true challenger jungler yourself, there are 99 ways to do it. Click the box on the top right.